Hello, we are looking at how globalization reshaped Vietnam from a colonized, centrally planned country into a major export manufacturing economy. Vietnam's growth has been closely tied to trade, foreign investment, regional integration, and participation in global supply chain. I will cover the economic, political, and cultural effects of globalization, Samsung's role, international institution, ASEAN, trade patterns, and exchange rate effects. Vietnam is in the Southeast Asia and borders China, Laos, and Cambodia. Hanoi, hope I pronounced that correctly, is the capital and the currency is the dong. The population was about 98.2 million in 2022, and French colonial rule began in 1858 and redirected parts of the economy towards export production while also creating strong nationalist resistance. Vietnam declared independence in 1945, joined ASEAN in 1995, and became a World Trade Organization member in 2007. Vietnam's economic globalization accelerated after the Doi Moi reforms opened the country more fully to trade and foreign investment. Multinational companies connected Vietnam to global value chains in electronics, apparel, footwear, and machinery. That export-led model created that export excuse me that expert that export-led model created jobs and helped move Vietnam to the lower middle income category. But foreign firms still account for 73% of exports, so local companies capture a small share of the value. Vietnam's next step is to build stronger domestic suppliers, advanced services, research capacity, and a more highly skilled workforce. Political globalization brought Vietnam into ASEAN and the World Trade Organization and a wider network of trade agreements, which improved access to markets and made trade policy more predictable. Vietnam integrated economically while keeping its one-party political system. Cultural globalization can be seen in the growing use of English, foreign brands, tourism, media, and technology, although Vietnamese language and national trade traditions remain strong. This makes Vietnam an example of selective globalization rather than complete political or cultural convergence. Globalization expanded Vietnam's export markets, attracted foreign investment, created jobs, and brought new technologies and business practices. It also increased consumer choice and connected the country to regional and global supply chains. The trade-off include independence on foreign corporations, limited domestic value capture, skills shortage, uneven regional gains, environmental pressure, and exposure to global downturns or trade disputes. Overall, globalization accelerated development, but Vietnam still needs to strengthen local capability and resilience. Samsung is a major export of foreign direct investment in Vietnam. The South Korean company operates large Vietnamese facilities that produce smartphones, televisions, and display panels, along with research and supplier development activities. Vietnam offered competitive labor cost, incentives, export access, trade agreements, and a scalable manufacturing base. Samsung gained a major production platform while Vietnam gained jobs and export capacity. However, the relationship also highlights dependence on foreign lead firms and imported high-value components. Vietnam joined the World Trade Organization in 2007. The World Trade Organization membership gives the country rules-based market access, tariff commitment, and a forum for negotiations and procedures for handling trade disputes. The World Bank contributes through financing and technical assistance, research and policy advice. Its recommendations for Vietnam emphasize stronger domestic supply chains, workforce skills, and workforce skills, higher value services, greener production, and more resilient growth. Together, these institutions provide rules, resources, and technical knowledge that support long-term development. Vietnam joined ASEAN in 1995 and participates in the ASEAN Free Trade Area. The ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement, or the ATIGA, includes tariff reduction schedules, rules of origin, customs and trade facilitation measures, and greater transparency for non-tariff measures. These rules lower regional trade costs and help firms participate in cross-border production networks. They also expose Vietnamese companies to stronger competition, which increases pressure to improve quality and productivity. Global Edge trade data shows that Vietnam's leading export destinations include the United States, China, South Korea, and Japan. While China and South Korea are especially important sources of imports, uh, Vietnam imports large amounts of components, machinery, plastic, fabrics, and fuel, then exports finished or partially assembled goods. Electrical machinery is the largest category on both sides of trade, which reflects Vietnam's position in regional electronics and manufacturing supply chains. Exchange rate changes affect both sides of Vietnam's trade model. When the dong depreciates, Vietnam's exports become cheaper in foreign currency, but imported components, machinery, plastic, and fuel become more expensive. When the dong appreciates, import inputs become cheaper while Vietnamese exports become more expensive to foreign buyers. The US dollar, Chinese yuan, and South Korean won, and Japanese yen are especially important because those countries are major trade partners. Firms can respond through pricing, contract currencies, sourcing decisions, and hedging strategies. I selected Vietnam because it shows both the opportunities and the limits of globalization. Colonial history shaped the country's institution and identity, while market reforms, trade agreements, international organizations, and multinational companies changed its economic direction. At least that's my reason now. Vietnam now needs to move from low-cost assembly towards innovation, stronger domestic suppliers, higher value services, and a more skilled workforce. The coffee fact is another reminder of Vietnam's global reach. The country is one of the world's leading coffee producers, which I'm sure everybody in this world appreciates. And these are my references. Thank you very much for this opportunity.